picture I like to call the PA.
So this episode, Cartman Sucks, is another thing that we sort of had. We had one idea for a long time. It actually goes all the way back to, I don't know what season it was, but years ago when we did the show about Aspen and skiing. We actually had a scene in there where, because part of that show, Cartman's kind of messing with Butters while he sleeps, and we had this whole scene where, where that story went was that while they were in Aspen, Cartman's like, you guys, I did the ultimate. While Butters was asleep, I put my in his mouth and took a picture. And they're like, dude, he's like, yeah, and that makes Butters seem It's like, no, it makes you seem And so we had that whole scene in that, and then there ended up being so much more in that show, and it became so much more a parody of the old 80s ski movies that it didn't fit in there anymore. So we cut the whole scene out, and so it just sort of sat there for a long time, and finally we got to this season of shows, and we brought that idea up again and said, remember that scene was really funny, and we had to cut it. And so we started talking about it some more and saying, well, maybe we could just start a show that way, and then instead of just sort of saying in passing, that makes you look we just have Kyle say, that makes you period. So that Cartman is like, and then there was all these other ideas. Okay, well, now Cartman's going to try not to be he's going to try all this stuff. But then we thought, no, let's just make it be about trying to get the picture back from Kyle.
I remember we had a big problem doing this episode. We couldn't decide whether to go to the re-education camp, or what was going to be the other.
Well, that was going to be one scene. We came up with the thing that's like, okay, it could
have been just one scene. Like he goes to the re-education camp, it doesn't work.
Remember, Butters' dad was going to come in and see Cartman with see Butters with Cartman's in his mouth, and then freak out, and then try all these different things. Like first he was going to take him to a Christian gay camp, and that wasn't going to work.
He was going to get him a date.
Then he was going to take him to Tijuana. Remember?
Yeah, Tijuana.
And he was finally going to take Butters' dad was going to take Butters to Tijuana and try to get him laid. And it was going to be this whole farcical thing. And then
a donkey instead.
Yeah.
A donkey show. They're going to end up at a donkey show.
But I remember then it ended up, we sort of got to the camp and we kind of, this is kind of fun. Because remember he was going to get to the camp, and then we actually had it animated at first where all the camp kids were like, because he says, a camp full of children trying to be straight. That sounds like a good idea. And then you cut to all the kids and they're like,
it's a rave.
Some fresh meat. And they were having like raves every night, and they were just like, these little they're super stoked to be at camp, because it's just like, they all get to go there and just each other.
But also like, a bunch of outcast kids, and then they get to go all be together. Like they're not going to suppress their homosexuality. They're going to find it.
Yeah.
They're really going to discover themselves.
And so then Butters' dad was going to walk in during this big rave where they're all on his, like trying to gangbang Butters and everything, and he was just like, now I gotta get my son laid. So that sounds funny too. But then we got to the camp, and we really liked the idea too of like.
Well, that was that. Yeah, we came up with the idea of that little kid who was really troubled by it, and that seems such a better emotional story.
Yeah.
Than we were going to go gangbang, bang, then monkey show. Right. It seemed funnier to have like an actual story.
And he seemed like he's kind of a cool character, and really I'm just doing Stan's voice while biting my fingernails. it's basically the same thing. But we came up with that little runner, and then the whole thing about the whole thing about the kid wanting to kill accountability buddy.
Yeah, accountability buddy. And the cool thing is, like, Butters just gives him a speech in the end. He doesn't even really know what he's saying, but it saves him. This
is one of my favorite. This is one of those where we're like trying to tell Comedy Central. They're like, what is this? Because it was one of the early scenes before they knew the context of the rest of the show. They're like, what the hell is going on? We're like, no, it all makes sense in a minute. And we kind of just wore them down, because at first there was actually, and I don't know if you still can. I'm waiting to see. Yeah, we had a little tiny on Cartman. And they're like, you can't have the little and I was like, I guess it makes sense, because he wouldn't have a little anyway.
Yeah, because he doesn't have a little he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm sure you've heard enough about that episode, so we'll move on, even though we'd like to do more on this one.